So I'll tell you a quick story. Just one of the things that happened, one of the many horrible things that happened when I was sick with my bone illness, I had to get a spinal surgery, right, where they stick metal rods into your collapsed vertebra, and they stick a balloon and puff it back up, and then they stick cement in there. So they did that to me. And by the way, I woke up during that surgery and I couldn't move. You ever hear about those stories? That happened to me.
God.
Yeah. So anyway, about a year later, after, we're just swimming in debt from this illness, just swimming in debt. And a year after that operation, I get a bill for a shot that I got, I guess, from an anesthesiologist. And it was over $1,000 just for that shot. And that doctor apparently was out of our network. Well, I didn't know that. That's the anesthesiologist they chose for me at the hospital. And so I get to pay the whole bill because that doctor wasn't in my network. And so now so a year after my spinal surgery, I get a bill. A year later? Could you imagine if you got your car fixed and a year later your mechanic sent you a bill for another part? You'd be like, get the F out of here. Well, you can't do that with medical bills because then they call a bill collector and then your credit gets knocked. So they can do whatever they want and you have no recourse. So Biden, so that's called surprise medical billing. That's what that's called. And Biden had a plan to stop surprise medical bills, but it's facing bipartisan pushback in Congress. What the F? Here it is. The détente that allowed Congress to pass a law to curb surprise medical bills has disintegrated. A bipartisan group of 152 lawmakers have been assailing the Biden administration's plan to regulate the law and medical providers, warning a grim consequence for underserved patients. Oh, this will hurt people.
How?
What is surprise medical billing? I'll tell you. A surprise medical bill is an unexpected bill from a healthcare provider or a facility. This can happen when a person with health insurance unknowingly gets medical care from a provider or a facility outside their health plan's network. Surprise billing happens in both emergency and non-emergency care. In an emergency, an individual usually goes or is taken to the nearest emergency department. Even if they go to an in-network hospital for emergency care, they might get care from an out-of-network provider at the facility. For non-emergency care, an individual might choose an in-network facility or an in-network provider, but not know that a provider involved in their care, for example, an anesthesiologist or a radiologist, is an out-of-network provider. In both emergency and non-emergency circumstances, the person might not be able to choose the provider or ensure that all their care is from a participating provider, as was the case with me. In addition to getting a bill for their cost-sharing amount, like co-payments, co-insurances, and any applicable deductibles, which tends to be higher for these out-of-network services, the individual might also get a balance bill from the out-of-network provider or facility. This is especially common in the context of air ambulance services, for which individuals generally do not have the ability to choose an air ambulance provider and have little or no control over whether the provider is an in-network with their... Can you imagine I don't know, driving through Colorado, you fall off the side of a mountain and they got to get a helicopter and you're laying there like, wait a minute, is it in my network? Is it in my, could you make sure the helicopter is covered by Blue Shield? Can you imagine that? I can't. For years, patients have faced these massive unexpected bills when they get treatment from hospitals or doctors outside their insurance company's network. It often happens when patients seek care at an in-network hospital, but a physician, such as an emergency room doctor or anesthesiologist who treats the patient, is not covered by the insurance plan. The insurer would pay only a small part of the bill, and the unsuspecting patient would be responsible for the balance. Congress passed the No Surprises Act last December to shield patients from that experience after long, hard-fought negotiations with providers and insurers finally yielded an agreement that lawmakers from both parties thought was fair. And what was the agreement? A 30-day negotiation period between health providers and insurers when disputes over bills arise, followed by arbitration if agreements can't be reached. That's exactly what should at least be happening. The rule, which would have taken effect January 2022, effectively leaves patients out of the fight. Providers and insurers have to work it out among themselves following the new policy. An analysis of the Congressional Budget Office suggests that No Surprises Act would lower health insurance premiums by about 1% and shave $17 billion off the federal deficit. But now many doctors, their medical associations, and members of Congress are crying foul, arguing the rule released by the Biden administration in September for implementing the law favors insurers and doesn't follow the spirit of the legislation. The administration's recently proposed regulation to begin implementing the law does not uphold the congressional intent and could incentivize insurance companies to set artificially low payment rates, which would narrow provider networks. Do you hear this shit they're saying? Do you hear this, Kurt? Which would narrow. So they're saying this rule would lessen service for regular people. They're saying that insurers would set their rates too low, and then that would narrow provider networks and potentially force small practices to close, thus limiting patients' access to care. So they're trying to couch this as this law will hurt people, instead of this is going to be a great thing to help people. They found a way to lie to you.
This very tepid, not even a strong bill to just say they have to.
Yes.
It's unbelievable.
It's not health care.
It's not health care. So who said this? Representative Larry Bouchon. He's a Republican from Indiana who is a doctor and helped spearhead a letter of complaint this month. He told us in a written, why? Because he wants to screw you out of fucking money. That's why. Nearly half of the 152 lawmakers who signed the letter were Democrats. And many of the physicians serving in the House signed. They're not there to help you. The people elected are there to help the donor class and screw you and funnel money upward to the donor class, which is what they do. It's unclear whether the administration will consider the lawmakers' concerns and change the regulations. One House staffer notes that more than 70 Democrats complaining to a Democratic White House could have an impact. Combined with the whole craziness of the surprise billing battle over the past few years and the legal threat, I think there's plenty of ballgame left, the staffer says. Nothing in life will radicalize a person faster than a medical diagnosis in America. 100% on that.
No shit.
My center-right friend was recently diagnosed with a bipolar disorder and is quickly going from a conservative Republican to a full-on socialist. Turns out dehumanizing people for having disorders and a lifetime of stress and trauma is an excellent way to make sure people want to burn your system to the ground. Here's a graphic from Real Clear Politics. 5 facts on surprise medical billing. About 1 in 5 elective surgeries results in surprise bills. Surprise bills also come from emergency and inpatient care. Surprise bills vary greatly from state to state. Doctors send more surprise bills than hospitals, which is why the doctors want to get rid of this rule, because they want to surprise bill your ass. I thought doctors were good people. A senator physician is among those trying to stop the surprise medical bills. And there's also lots of them that are trying to keep it going. BuzzFeed, a deal to end surprise medical billing was tanked at the last minute. Son of a bitch, they did. This is from 2019.
Oh, thank God. I was afraid that they wouldn't be able to take down that helpful.
President Donald Trump and leaders in both parties have spoken for months about the urgency of ending one of the most glaring loopholes in the U.S. healthcare system, but Congress did not include any legislation to end surprise medical billing in its end-of-year budget bill. Democrats and Republicans in the House and Senate had reached a deal to end surprise billing in recent weeks despite a multi-million-dollar dark money campaign to kill reform funded by private equity firms that profit from sending surprise bills to hospital patients. It appeared set to be included in the must-pass spending bill. Then everything fell apart. And people on both sides of the aisle are pointing their fingers at one member for taking the momentum. Representative Richie Neal, the powerful chair of the House Ways and Means Committee. There is an extreme frustration. This was the deal. It was vetted. It was signed off on. It was approved. The White House endorsed it, said one House Republican aide. That's when you need to set aside egos and get on board. This was going to be a win for the American people. The deal was endorsed by President Trump and seemed to set to pass, but it was always on shaky ground. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, receiving pressure from the Greater New York Hospital Association, did not endorse the bill, but did not try to block it. Then, last week, Neal, the Democrat in charge of the House Ways and Means Committee, surprised everyone by releasing a counter-proposal. Conversations with a half a dozen politicians and aides across both parties and chambers with knowledge of the process concluded that the proposal from the Ways and Means Committee fractured the unsteady coalition and killed chances for surprise billing to be solved in 2019, thanks to Democrat control of the House.
Hey, I just want to thank the lesser of two evils for stopping the evil Trump from making this go through.
Richie Neal's primary challenger, Alex Morse, the mayor of Holyoke, Massachusetts, accused Neal of being bought by a $29,000 donation from the Blackstone Group, a private equity owner of physician staffing company Team Health, which profits from surprise billing. Hey, here's from Massachusetts Live. Insurance health industry PACs top donors to U.S. Representative Richard Neal's re-election campaign. Oh, son of a bitch. The idea, this is from David Sirota, friend of the show. The Congressional Progressive Caucus should withhold its vote. Oh my God, where'd he get that idea from? Should withhold its vote for Pelosi for Speaker until she removes Richie Neal from Ways and Means Committee chair, after Neal just torpedoed strong surprise billing legislation during a pandemic. Well, look at David Sirota. He was on board for forced to vote, then he wasn't, then he was, then he wasn't, then he was. This is one of the times he was. Isn't that nice? Look at that. That's a nice tweet. Congressional Progressive Caucus should withhold its vote. You mean they should force a vote on Nancy Pelosi? Congress asleep at the switch as Biden continues Trump-era ploy to privatize Medicare. This is from November 30th of this year. Jake Johnson wrote this. Common Dreams. More than 1,500 physicians warned that the experiment threatens the future of Medicare as we know it. So Biden is continuing Trump-era ploy to privatize Medicare. You saw the Democrats killed surprise billing. Now you know why I don't vote for these two parties. I vote third party. And you have to stop voting for Democrats. And until you stop voting for Democrats, bad things will continue to happen.
Jimmy?
And I don't help Republicans get elected. I used to help Democrats. I helped AOC. I helped Cori Bush. I helped Bernie Sanders. I helped a lot of Democrats to get elected. But I'm not doing that anymore because the Democrats are complicit in the crimes against the American people while they pretend to try to help you as the lesser of two evil when they are not. Kurt?
Do we know did Richie Neal at least surprise bill the private equity firm, his bride? Did he surprise him? It'll cost $29,000 for this.
Whoa.
Did I tell you?
That's quite I must have been out of network on this lobby. Whoa.
You're not in my lobby network.
So again, that's the conclusion is we've got to get rid of this two-party duopoly. We've got to make a stand. You've got to stop voting to Democrats. And just as important, you got to stop donating to them. Now, the rest of the nutless wonders on YouTube who call themselves lefties will never tell you this. You have to stop voting for Democrats if you want to pull them to the left. You have to stop donating to them. And until weasels like Kyle Kulinski tell you that, you know that he's a bullshitter. You know that he's defending Democrats. You know that he's a shill. He's a Biden bro. and the rest of them, until they tell you to stop donating and voting for fucking Democrats, there'll always be a shill for the Democratic Party. You know they're not serious. That's my position. Now go ahead. Defend the Democratic Party. Go ahead, you Biden bro. Anything you have to say, Kurt?
Well, January 6th changed everything.
I just got Washington brain, man. I just got Washington brain. I just got Washington brain, bro. I'm a Biden bro, Washington brain, bro. That's all. I'm not corrupt, bro.
I got pussy hair and Washington brain.
I got pussy hair and Washington brain.
Nothing wrong with pussies.
Nothing wrong with pussies.
Come on.
How did you put it? His haircut looks like what?
It's like a pubic haircut of a coastal elite professional lady.
That's very funny. All right, Kurt Metzger, everybody to check out Kurt's podcast. It's available on YouTube. It's called Can't Get Right, podcast with Kurt Metzger. He also is on the very funny Kyle Dunnigan show. So
subscribe to that.
Check that out. All right, tell Kyle we said hello.
Thank you, brother.
And thank you very much.
Goodbye. Bye, Steph.
Good to talk to you. All right, talk to you later. Bye-bye. Hey, come see one of our live stand-up shows December 10th or 17th or New Year's Eve at the Two Roads Theater in Studio City, California. See you there. Go to jimmydorecomedy.com for a link for all tickets.